The Velcor ship descended through Earth's atmosphere without announcing itself. It moved silently through the clouds over Switzerland. Ambassador Therix looked out the viewport at the planet below. From space, Earth looked wild, dangerous but also beautiful. The ship landed in Geneva outside the United Nations building. Humans had been expecting them. Earth's detection systems were primitive, but they worked well enough. Within minutes, the area was surrounded by military vehicles. Humans pointed weapons at the ship. Therix took a deep breath. She had never felt nervous before. The Velcor did not do nervous. But meeting humans for the first time in 200 years made her skin tingle with uncertainty. The ship's door opened. She stepped out with 2 assistants. The human weapons tracked their movement. Therix raised her hands to show she carried nothing dangerous. It was a human gesture. She had studied their customs. A human man walked forward. He wore a military uniform covered in medals and symbols. His hair was gray, but his eyes were sharp and alert. Behind him came a woman in civilian clothes carrying a tablet computer. "I am Admiral Marcus Chen," the man said. "This is Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, our chief scientist. Welcome to Earth, Ambassador. Though I admit we are surprised to see you. Your people have ignored us for 2 centuries. Therix heard no anger in his voice. Just facts. Humans were direct. She appreciated that. "Admiral Chen, Dr. Okonkwo, thank you for meeting with me. What I must tell you is difficult. My people, the entire Concordat, we need your help." Chen and Okonkwo exchanged glances. Okonkwo spoke next. "Please come inside. You can tell us everything." They walked into the building. The walls were covered with flags from every human nation. Therix knew humans were divided into hundreds of different groups. They fought wars. They argued constantly. Yet somehow they had united enough to explore space. In a secure conference room, Therix activated a holographic projector. The device was Concordat technology, far more advanced than anything humans had. But Chen and Okonkwo did not look impressed. They looked interested. "This is the rewriting," Therix said. The hologram showed star systems vanishing. It started 6 months ago in the outer sectors. At first, we lost single planets, then entire systems. Now it is spreading faster. We do not know what it is. We do not know how to stop it. Okonkwo leaned forward, studying the display. "What happens to the matter? Is it destroyed?" "No, it is transformed, changed. The laws of physics are being rewritten. Matter becomes energy, becomes something else, something we cannot measure or understand. Our scientists have tried everything." "Nothing works," Chen asked a strange question. "Have you tried not fighting it logically?" Therix did not understand. "What do you mean?" "Your people are logical," Chen said. "You follow rules. You use mathematics and science. But what if this thing does not follow rules? What if you need to fight chaos with chaos?" This was why the Concordat had quarantined humanity. Humans thought in ways that made no sense. They ignored logic. They tried impossible things. The Concordat found this disturbing, but perhaps that was exactly what they needed now. Okonkwo was typing rapidly on her tablet. "Your data shows patterns. The rewriting moves in predictable waves. It avoids certain types of stellar activity. It seems to target organized systems first." "Interesting." "We noticed those patterns too," Therix said. "But we could not use them. Every defense we built was defeated." "Because you built organized defenses," Okonkwo replied. "You used logic. This thing eats logic. It feeds on order and predictability." Chen smiled. It was not a happy smile. "Ambassador, you came to the right place. Humans are very good at being unpredictable." Therix felt hope for the first time in months, but she had to be honest. "There is something else you should know. The Concordat, we have not treated humanity well. We called you primitive, dangerous. We locked your system away from the rest of the galaxy. We refused to share technology or knowledge. And now we come asking for help." Chen nodded slowly. "Yes, we know. We have known for 200 years that you were watching us, that you considered us too dangerous for your perfect society." "I am sorry," Therix said. The words felt strange in her mouth. "The Velcor rarely apologized. We will help you," Chen said. "But we have conditions. If we save your galaxy, humanity becomes a full member of the Concordat. You share all your technology. You treat us as equals. No more quarantine. No more watching from a distance." Therix did not hesitate. "Agreed, I have authority to make this deal. Help us stop the rewriting, and humanity will have everything you ask for." Chen extended his hand. Another human gesture. Therix knew what it meant. She reached out and grasped his hand firmly. The deal was made. How soon can your fleet be ready? Theryx asked. Chen looked at his watch. 72 hours. We will gather ships from every nation. They will not be as advanced as yours. They will not be as powerful, but they will be human. And right now, that might be exactly what you need. As Theryx left Earth, she watched the human fleet beginning to assemble. The ships looked rough and unfinished compared to concordate vessels. They were covered in symbols and colors, each nation marking its ships differently. They had no unified design, no logical organization. They were chaos in metal form. For the first time, Theryx thought maybe that was not a bad thing. The human fleet arrived at the frontier zone 3 days later. Ambassador Theryx watched them come through the jump point. She had seen many fleets in her long life. The concordate forces were beautiful, elegant ships that moved in perfect formation. Every vessel identical, every movement calculated. The human fleet was nothing like that. Ships of all sizes and shapes poured through the jump point. Some were military vessels painted in camouflage patterns. Others were converted cargo ships with weapons bolted onto their hulls. A few looked like they had been built in someone's garage. They flew in loose groups, each nation's forces staying somewhat together, but without rigid formation. Commander Vexillar, who commanded the Concordat defensive line, stared at the human ships with horror. This is what they sent? These machines look like they might fall apart before they reach the battle. Dr. Okonkwo's voice came over the communication channel. She was aboard the UNSS Indomitable, the flagship of the human fleet. Commander Vexillar, our ships may not be pretty, but they work. We are ready to help, Admiral Chen added. We have brought our best pilots and our most creative engineers. Show us where you need us. Vexillar sent them the coordinates. The human fleet moved toward the front line. As they flew, Theryx noticed something strange. Some of the human ships were playing music, loud music that broadcast on open channels. Other ships flew in patterns that made no tactical sense. One small fighter was spinning as it flew, like it was dancing through space. What are they doing? Vexillar demanded. This is not military discipline. They are being human, Theryx replied quietly. Dr. Okonkwo had been studying the rewriting during the journey. Now she broadcast her findings to both human and concordate forces. I believe I understand what we are facing. The rewriting is not random. It follows anti-patterns. It predicts what we will do, then does the opposite. It expects logical responses, mathematical precision, optimized solutions. How does that help us? Vexillar asked. It helps because we are going to give it something it cannot predict, us. The rewriting appeared on their sensors. It looked like a wave of distortion, spreading through space. Everything it touched changed. Stars flickered and died. Planets dissolved. Even empty space itself seemed to twist and break. Captain Yuki Tanaka commanded a squadron of Japanese fighters. Her voice came over the channel, calm but excited. This is Dragon Squadron. We are beginning Operation Madness. All human forces, follow your instincts. Do not follow standard tactics. Be creative. Be unpredictable. Show this thing what humanity is made of. The human ships charged forward, but they did not move in straight lines. They zigzagged. They spun. They changed direction randomly. Some ships flew upside down. Others flew in spirals. A Brazilian pilot started broadcasting samba music while doing barrel rolls. Vexillar watched in disbelief. This is madness. They are going to get themselves killed. Yes, Theryx said. But watch what happens to the rewriting. The wave of distortion reached the human ships. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, something incredible occurred. The rewriting hesitated. It slowed down. It seemed confused. A human pilot fired his weapons at seemingly random intervals. Another one turned off his engines and drifted, then suddenly accelerated in a new direction. A third ship was playing, 3 different songs at the same time, creating a horrible noise that made no musical sense. The rewriting could not process it. It was designed to counter logic, to defeat order, to break down organized systems. But humans were not using logic. They were using intuition, creativity, and pure randomness. Dr. Okonkwo shouted, It is. Working. The rewriting is having trouble adapting to our chaos. All concordant forces follow the human example. Break your formations. Stop using standard tactics. The concordant crews hesitated. They had trained for thousands of years to follow precise military doctrine. Flying randomly went against everything they knew, but they trusted the data. Slowly, some concordant ships began to move in less predictable patterns. The rewriting wave began to fragment. It could not maintain coherence against an enemy that made no sense. Parts of it collapsed. Other parts tried to adapt, but by the time they changed, the humans had already done something completely different. Behind the line, a concordant colony world was in danger. The rewriting had almost reached it. 4 million beings lived on that planet. They would all die if the wave touched their world. Captain Tanaka saw the danger. "Dragon Squadron, with me. We are going to save that planet." Her squadron dove toward the planet. They flew through the edge of the rewriting, their ship shaking from the distortion. Alarms screamed, systems failed. But the pilots kept flying, using manual controls when computers stopped working. They reached the planet's atmosphere. Using their weapons and engines, they created a barrier of superheated plasma around the world. It should not have worked. The plasma was not strong enough, it was not organized enough, but it was chaotic enough that the rewriting could not process it. The wave split, flowing around the planet like water around a rock. The world was saved. Cheers erupted across all channels. Concordant and human crews celebrated together. For the first time, they had won a battle against the rewriting, but Dr. Okonkwo was not celebrating. She stared at her screens with growing concern. "Admiral Chen, we have a problem." "What is it?" Chen asked. "The rewriting is learning. It is adapting to our chaos. Next time, our tactics will not work. It is starting to understand unpredictability. We bought ourselves time, but not much. We need a new plan." The combined human concordant task force gathered in deep space, far from any star system. Dr. Okonkwo had been working without sleep for 3 days. Her eyes were red with exhaustion, but they burned with determination. She had discovered something important. "I know what the rewriting is," she announced to the assembled commanders. Her holographic image appeared before both human and alien officers. "It is not alive. It is not a natural phenomenon. It is a weapon." Dr. Kelvin, the Arxelian scientist, joined the briefing. "Our analysis confirms Dr. Okonkwo's theory. The rewriting was created by the progenitors, an ancient species that existed millions of years before the concordant. We have found references to them in old ruins across the galaxy." "Why would they create such a thing?" Thyrix asked. "To eliminate threats," Okonkwo replied. "The progenitors were the first advanced species in this galaxy. They built the rewriting as a defense mechanism. It was designed to destroy any civilization that became too dangerous. But here is the interesting part. It only targets species that become too logical, too perfect, too predictable." Admiral Chen leaned forward. "So civilizations that reach a certain level of advancement triggered this weapon. The concordant became too organized, too efficient. The weapon activated." "Exactly," Kelvin said. "The progenitors believed that perfect order leads to stagnation. They wanted to ensure that only species capable of growth and change could survive. And humanity survived because we are not perfect." Okonkwo continued. "We are contradictory. We are logical and emotional. We are organized and chaotic. We cooperate and compete. We build and destroy. The rewriting was never designed to handle a species like us." Vexlar spoke up. His voice was respectful now, not dismissive like before. "This explains why your chaos tactics worked. But you said the rewriting is learning. How do we stop it permanently?" Chen stood up and walked to the holographic display. "We are going to do something dangerous. We are going to let it catch us." The room erupted in protests. Even the human officers looked shocked. Chen raised his hand for silence. "The rewriting works by processing data. It reads civilizations like a computer reads code. When it finds something too perfect, too logical, it deletes it. But what if we give it data it cannot process? What if we feed it pure humanity?" Okonkwo understood immediately. "You want to let it absorb human consciousness. Our culture, our history, our contradictions. It would be like feeding corrupted data to a computer program." "Yes, but it requires volunteers. People willing to let the rewriting take them. It is extremely dangerous. We do not know if anyone can survive. Captain Tanaka was the first to speak. I will go. I volunteer. As will I, said Lieutenant Marcus Washington. An American engineer. Count me in, added Dr. Amara Osei, a Ghanaian physicist. Within minutes, 200 volunteers had stepped forward. Soldiers and scientists, engineers and artists, philosophers and pilots. They came from every human nation. They represented the full diversity of their species. They boarded a single ship, specially prepared for the mission. The ship was filled with human culture, music from every era, books in hundreds of languages, art and poetry, recordings of laughter and crying, videos of wars and weddings, mathematical equations and love letters, everything that made humanity human. The ship flew toward the rewriting. The wave approached, a wall of distortion that stretched across space. The volunteers did not try to escape. They opened their minds. They thought about their lives, their families, their hopes and fears. They became a beacon of pure human consciousness. The rewriting engulfed the ship. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sensors started showing something impossible. Inside the rewriting's matrix, the weapon was trying to process what it had absorbed. It was experiencing human history. All of it, at once, war and peace, love and hate, logic and emotion, creation and destruction, hope and despair, music and silence, order and chaos, life and death, every contradiction, every paradox, every impossible thing that made humanity what it was. The rewriting could not categorize it. It could not understand beings who were both violent and compassionate, who created beautiful art in the midst of terrible wars, who reached for the stars while destroying their own planet, who were selfish and selfless at the same time. It experienced a human mother singing a lullaby to her child, then a soldier dying on a battlefield, then scientists discovering a cure for disease, then artists painting sunsets, then children laughing, then refugees fleeing war, all happening simultaneously, all equally real. The weapon tried to find logic in it. It tried to categorize. It tried to understand. But there was no single pattern. Humanity was too complex, too contradictory, too alive. The rewriting experienced something it had never encountered before, something its creators had never programmed it to handle. It experienced meaning without logic, purpose without reason, hope without guarantee. It experienced what it meant to be human, and it could not process it. The wave of distortion began to collapse. Like a computer program encountering corrupted data, the rewriting crashed. It fragmented into smaller and smaller pieces. The galaxy-wide threat dissolved into manageable data streams that scientists could study and contain. Across the fleet, alarms fell silent. The threat indicators turned green. The danger was over. The volunteer ship emerged from the collapsing distortion. Damaged but intact, every single volunteer had survived. They had done the impossible. They had defeated an ancient weapon designed by beings far more advanced than any current species. And they had done it by simply being themselves. 6 months had passed since the defeat of the rewriting. Ambassador Therix stood in the Grand Assembly Hall on Zenthari Prime. The hall was filled with representatives from every species in the Concordat. Today was special. Today, humanity would officially join them. The hall looked different now. It was less formal, less rigid. Human influence was already spreading through Concordat space. Some ships now painted their hulls in bright colors. Some military units played music during training. Scientists were encouraged to try unconventional ideas. The perfect order of the Concordat was being mixed with human chaos. And it was working. Dr. Okonkwo and Dr. Kelvin had become close friends. They worked together, studying the fragments of the rewriting. Their research had revealed incredible truths about the galaxy's past. The progenitors had not disappeared mysteriously. They had become too perfect, too logical. Their own weapon had destroyed them. It is ironic, Kelvin said during one of their research sessions. They created a weapon to prevent civilizations from becoming evolutionary dead ends. But they themselves fell into that trap. That is what happens when you try to eliminate chaos completely, Okonkwo replied. Life needs disorder. Evolution needs mistakes. Progress needs failure. The progenitors forgot that. The ceremony began. Council leader Zarathus stood at the center of the hall. His ancient voice echoed through the chamber. We gather today to welcome a new member to the Galactic Concordat. A species that taught us a valuable lesson, a species that saved us when we could not save ourselves. Admiral Chen walked forward. He wore a formal uniform, but Therix noticed he had added a small patch from each human nation to his sleeve. Even in this moment, humans celebrated their diversity. "Thank you, Council Leader," Chen said. "Humanity is honored to join the Concordat. We come not as conquerors or saviors, but as partners. We have much to learn from you, and perhaps you have a little to learn from us." The hall filled with a sound that had never been heard there before. Applause. Another human custom that was spreading through the galaxy. The Concordat species were learning to express emotion more freely. Therix approached Chen after the ceremony. "Admiral, I must confess something. When I first came to Earth, I was ashamed. I thought my people had failed by needing help from a species we considered primitive." "I was wrong," Chen smiled. "Ambassador, there is no shame in asking for help. That is another thing humans understand. We know we cannot do everything alone. We need each other. That is why we formed nations. That is why we reached for the stars. That is why we work together despite our differences." "Your people truly are remarkable," Therix said. "You are violent and peaceful, selfish and generous. You destroy and create. How do you live with so many contradictions?" "We do not live with them, Ambassador. We live because of them. Our contradictions are not weaknesses. They are our strength. They keep us growing. They keep us changing. They keep us alive." Commander Vexillar joined them. The proud warrior had changed the most. He now commanded a mixed unit of humans and Kronthar. He had learned to appreciate human unpredictability. "Admiral Chen, I have a request. I want to learn more about human military history. Your wars were chaotic and brutal, but you developed tactics we never imagined." "I would be happy to share our history," Chen replied. "Though I warn you, it is not pretty. Humans have done terrible things to each other." "That is exactly why I want to learn," Vexillar said. "The Concordat has no wars, no conflicts. We thought that made us superior, but it also made us weak. We forgot how to struggle, how to adapt, how to overcome." Later that day, Therix walked through a park in the Zenthari capital. Human families were there mixing with alien species. Children played together, laughing in different languages. A human artist was teaching a group of Arxelians how to paint, encouraging them to make mistakes and try again. She sat on a bench next to Dr. Okonkwo, who was eating something called ice cream. The scientist offered some to Therix. She tried it. It was cold and sweet and somehow tasted like happiness. "Do you know what I find most amazing about humans?" Therix asked. "What?" Okonkwo replied. "You never gave up. Even when logic said you should fail, you kept trying. Even when the universe seemed against you, you kept fighting. Even when you did not know if you would survive, you kept hoping." Okonkwo smiled. "That is what humans do, Ambassador. We survive, we adapt, we overcome. Not because we are stronger or smarter or better than anyone else, but because we refuse to accept defeat. We refuse to give up. We refuse to stop being ourselves." Above them, ships moved across the sky. Human vessels flew alongside Concordat craft. They no longer looked out of place. They looked like they belonged. Because they did. The Concordat had learned something important. Advancement was not about becoming perfect. It was about staying alive, staying curious, staying human in the best sense of the word. In the research center, fragments of the rewriting were carefully stored. Scientists studied them, learning from them. The weapon had been defeated, but it had also taught them something valuable. Order and chaos both had their place. Logic and emotion both mattered. Perfection was not the goal. Growth was. The galaxy had faced extinction. It had been saved by beings that should not have mattered. Beings that were too young, too chaotic, too imperfect to make a difference. But that was exactly why they succeeded. No one knew what the galaxy faced. No one understood the threat. The Concordat was desperate. They called humanity, and humanity answered with chaos, creativity, and an unbreakable refusal to surrender. The galaxy was saved not by perfection, but by hope. Not by logic, but by heart. Not by order, but by the beautiful, messy, wonderful chaos that made humanity human. And in doing so, humanity taught the galaxy that survival did not require being perfect. It only required being alive, being willing to change, and never ever giving up.